Welcome to episode 21 of the State Line Fast Break podcast. I'm your host, Kasey Boone. Alongside me, as always, the great Josh Miller.
Here we go. Game 7 is upon us. The NBA draft is upon us. Lakers selling for $10 billion is upon us. And all of it's going to be unpacked right here. Let's get into it.
We have a Game 7 in the NBA Finals, but before we get to that, I want to not congratulate Marco Bellinelli on a retirement today. Um, I am dreadful that you were ever part of my favorite team, and I just want to say I hope you have a terrible retirement.
This cannot be happening right now. And this is Casey's favorite basketball player ever. And to be proven for a Santa gift last Christmas, he got a Marco Bellinelli jersey from yours truly.
But to get into the real stuff, the Indiana Pacers have forced a Game 7, getting a dominant win in Game 6 in Gainbridge Fieldhouse, an electric environment. Just an all-around dominant performance from the Pacers. They got a massive Siakam game. He had 33. Nemhart was on fire, 8 points super early to tie the game up when the Thunder had jumped out to a lead. You got contributions from just about everybody. Um, Miles Turner was pretty much a no-show, but other than that, this was an impressive win for the Indiana Pacers as they force what is going to be one of the more highly anticipated Game 7s we've had in a long time. We haven't really had a Game 7 finals game since 2016, which the Warriors blew a 3-1 lead to the Cavaliers with an iconic shot from Kyrie down the stretch to seal that one. So we are looking down the barrel at what would be the potential fifth time in NBA history that a road team would go on to win a Game 7. Only happened four other times. Two of them were the Celtics back in the 60s and 70s. And obviously 2016 was the most recent. And so history is on the line. The direction of these two franchises on the line. There's a lot at stake here. The Oklahoma City Thunder, as they have been in every single game, are the favorites at home in Oklahoma City. A lot to unpack from these two games. Uh, just an impressive bounce back from the Indiana Pacers.
If I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. I have continued to doubt this Indiana Pacers team, and they just continue to prove me wrong time and time again. I'm going to start back to the last game that we didn't get to record after was Game 5. A classic game from Jalen Williams, dropping a playoff career high 40 points, joins a very short list of NBA players in finals history to drop 40 points. Shea Gill just gives you 10 assists, didn't shoot the ball necessarily great, but saw a lot of double teams, and Jalen Williams just really had the most complete game he's had in a very long time. And then we have the Tyrese Halliburton injury, which I'm sure you're going to have details on for us. But we weren't 100%, or well, we were, but the Pacers tried to, classically mislead some people saying we don't know if he's going to play. He goes out there last night, and I mean, at times you could barely tell he was injured. Really played a good clean basketball game. Only had to play about 23 minutes, but just the most underrated guy throughout this playoff run overall for this Pacers team, and at times has been the best point guard on this team, is TJ McCollum. Has continued to give tremendous effort in games, as last night goes. 12, 9, 6 assists, 4 steals. I mean, 9 rebounds out of TJ McConnell last night. Just a tremendous performance again. He has really showed up in this series. And when Jalen Williams goes for 40 points. He follows his next game up with being your favorite stat plus minus a minus 40. So he goes from scoring 40 points to having the one of the worst, I believe it may be the worst plus minus in finals history at a minus 40, which you go back and watch that game. He's not necessarily the reason they lost. He actually came out of the first half and I believe he had 8 early points there, but I mean by the it was a 30-point game in the third quarter last night. Starters were pulled, and we're headed to a game seven, which I did not see coming. And whew, man, I if I was a Thunder fan, I would be extremely nervous. Though I still side with the Thunder here. This series has played out just so similarly to the Denver series, in my opinion. And I'm not saying Game Seven is going to be a blowout by any means, but I do think that the Thunder are going to come out with a tremendous amount of effort, and they better because this game, Shea Gilgis Alexander, if he really is there to take that next step in NBA history greats, this is going to be a game that we look back on and remember. I mean, it's Game Seven. We rarely ever get Game Sevens in the finals, and we haven't had one since that 2016 series, like you mentioned. And I mean, any NBA fan thinks about that series to this day. When you think of the finals, you think of moments like that. You think of Kyrie Irving hitting that shot, just the plays down the stretch in the game seven, how it felt. We're gonna get to see that again Sunday night. I'm excited. Thunder are big favorites as they've been pretty much through every series, every game, every single thing that's happened. And they're sitting at minus 300 at about 7 to 7.5 point favorites heading into Sunday night. And I'm curious to see where you're going to side here. I'm going to stick with the Thunder, and by no means do I think it will go how the Game Seven with Denver went, but I still will side with the Thunder. But I still got to give Indiana major credit.
The Pacers proved that they could win without Halliburton. They really didn't rely on him much, only played 22 minutes, had 14 points. Looked a lot better out on the court than what he was maybe expected to do as far as what this was considered a multiple week injury. If this was not an NBA Finals game, there was no way Halliburton would be out there. Showed a lot of resilience, and he had the backing from many guys on this team. Like you've mentioned, McConnell has been massive for them. I mean, he had more rebounds than Turner. He had more rebounds than Chet Holmgren. He had more rebounds than Isaiah Hartenstein. The dude just, he flat out plays ball. He does everything, does all the little things, plays the game the right way. He's gritty, he's tough. He gets after guys on the defensive end. McConnell has proved to be huge for the Pacers here, and they needed it when Tyrese Halliburton went down here. Nimhard and Siakam, like I said, those were the two guys, and that's who you expected the Pacers to lean on here in game six on the offensive side of the floor. Those were the two guys you were going to have step up with Halliburton being down. And we've talked about it, the road teams, those guys that are your role players don't typically perform up to the standard that you get on the home court. And that was the case here as you just had Neesmith, Nimhard, Toppin. Shepard even came in and hit a couple big shots. TJ McConnell, these guys are all going to play better at home. Lou Dort gave you a 1 for 5 performance. You didn't get anything really out of Aaron Wiggins or Isaiah Joe. Cason Wallace was bad again. I mean, he's going to start slowly seeing less and minutes throughout the series, and he was a guy that has been huge for the Thunder this year. It's just been a very strange. It's been one of the best playoff series, especially NBA Finals series that we've seen in quite some time. Just two teams that are, I don't know that the Thunder really have that much of an advantage over the Pacers with the way that the Pacers have played in 2025, the calendar year. After that rough, I think they were 11 and 14 to start the year. The Pacers are just, they're a team full of guys that play extremely hard. The effort that they play with, the intensity. There was an interview that JJ Redick did throughout the year where they were asking him, "Hey, you're now a head coach in the league. What is the biggest difference that you understand about the game now that you maybe didn't when you were a player?" He mentioned the fact that how hard guys have to play, how much buy-in you have to have, and what the organization is preaching. And that's something that maybe the Pacers don't have the most talent, but they've got guys that give their all throughout the game, exert so much energy. Neesmith, Nimhard just following Shea Gilgeous-Alexander around defensively, getting into him, not allowing him to get to his spots. It's just something that it's truly impressive to watch. I think it makes Indiana Pacers a fun team to root for. Not that I'm the biggest Pacers fan in the world, but it's just a fun team to watch, and they have a good story behind them. And what's even more impressive is to win an NBA championship, you have to win 16 games. They have been underdogs and won 11 games this year, where they were the underdogs throughout these playoff run. Statistically and historically, in terms of the betting odds and the favorites, this would be an all-time underdog playoff champion that we haven't seen before in the history of the league. That would be more wins than any other team as an underdog. And so it's a testament to what Rick Carlisle has instilled in the guys, Pritchard, the general manager, what they have targeted in the draft and free agency, the type of players that they want to put on their roster. And while obviously the Thunder, we see the talent and the historic regular season that this team had, it allows the Pacers to keep up with that, and they don't bat an eye. They don't listen to, oh, you're 9.5 point favorites in most or underdogs in most of these games. They don't listen to all that. They just go out and play, even when their star player season is on the line with that injury that he had suffered in Game 5. The Pacers, to me, are they're the team of destiny. It almost feels like. So just for that reason alone, I feel like the Pacers are going to win Game 7. It's going to be an all-time underdog story. It's going to be one that we look back on many, many years. Obviously, would be the fifth time in history that a road team has won a Game 7 in the NBA Finals. And so to me, that's just where I see this standing right now. Like you had mentioned, the Game 7 that the Thunder were in against the Nuggets, they had a similar letdown in Game 6 where it just almost looked like they were disinterested. They didn't really feel like they needed to put a whole lot of effort. They were underestimating these teams. We took care of business Game 4, Game 5. We've got all the momentum. We can just carry it in. That's just not the case with this Pacers team. I think they've got a lot more competitive heart, a lot more spirit than maybe that Nuggets team had. The Nuggets team had been battling, scratching and clawing through injuries, through adversity towards the end of the year. They almost just kind of ran out of gas after that Game 6 performance. I just don't see that being the case with this Pacers team. They've got too much pride. They've got too much intensity within that locker room. Um, and there's a ton of motivation in what is going to be a legacy game for both franchise, but especially if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder and you're Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, your legacy is on the line here. This is pegged up to be one of the best teams in the history of the league. And if you fail to win the title after your star player puts together back-to-back pretty poor performances from his standard, that would leave a very sour taste as you're heading into the offseason. You've got to turn around and refocus for the draft and free agency immediately if you're that franchise, if you're that front office and coaching staff. And so a lot on the line here, a lot to look forward to. It's going to be an incredibly competitive game, a really entertaining ball game taking place in Oklahoma City on Sunday night.
Yeah, I really want to hone in on the Shea Gilgis Alexander. Just, I mean, we could look back Sunday night from Sunday night and say, man, this one of the best seasons ever by a guard, by a player, period, that Shea Gilgis has done this year by winning the scoring title, by, helping this Thunder team become one of the best defenses in the league, being the leader, all these kind of things, having a very good playoff run, winning the conference finals MVP. I'm not saying he's been bad in this finals. He's been very good in this finals. He's had a couple games, but up before yesterday, I mean, you could make an argument Jalen Williams could have won the MVP, could win the MVP of this finals. And we really, there's been a lot of conversations, especially after game five in the media. And you actually hinted at it last episode. We didn't go into it too deeply, but where does Jalen Williams sort of stand in the league? Is he's only 23 or 24 years of age in his third year, dropping 40 in the finals. Kind of took some of that shine away from SGA in a way. Well, Shea has, the it's the biggest. There's no bigger opportunity than what's in front of him here, and I do think, as great as this Thunder team is, and as great as the Western Conference is, it's sort of unique because they've won by so many games, and we talk about how good the West is, but we still are hesitant to say whether or not if this Thunder team's like a historically great team. But when you mention those things about the Pacers, about how the Thunder don't necessarily have a great edge, I mean, I actually agree with you when you're watching these games. Like, it's just a very even fought matchup. It takes everything out of the Thunder to to win these games and to even compete in these games. I mean, the Pacers are just so, they do feel like a team of destiny. But I just think they're going to come out with a different intensity. I think they're going to feed off the crowd. And I mean, I don't understand how you can't get hyped up for it because they were not in the right headspace last night. We could all tell from the jump. And like I said, that happened in game six against Denver. Obviously, Denver, they had two guys in their starting lineup who one guy could barely put his arm over his head, and Michael Porter Jr., and then Aaron Gordon couldn't even run once he got to that game seven. Tyrese Halliburton's in much better condition, in my opinion, at least how they're moving around than Aaron Gordon was. But, you know, it has been a tremendous series. I just think if you're Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, you really have to go out and seize this moment because you can really stamp yourself in the history books. I mean, you already have. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to discredit the guy, but this is ultimately taking that next step to NBA greats, all these different conversations you're going to enter yourself into, and shouldn't have let it get to a game seven, but it's only going to make the story even better down the road if you go out there and you drop, your classic 35, maybe 40 hit clutch buckets in the fourth quarter, like you did in a game, I believe it was four, where he didn't really have it going most of the game, comes to the fourth quarter and just turned it on, dropped over, I believe, 12 in the fourth quarter or something like that, and won the game for him. And if you go back to that Nuggets series, you can go back to the points in game four and game five and think really that's where they won the series in a way. So I think that's what's going to happen again. And like I said, I have no idea how this game's going to play out. This has been very unpredictable. I don't. Um, it's just so many different things happening. You have Matherin dropping 27. All of a sudden, he plays terrible last night. Miles Turner has done nothing on the offensive end all series, pretty much. He has been very good defensively, but does he actually show up and hit a couple shots Sunday night? I mean, TJ McConnell is due for a game where he's not quite as impactful. And you mentioned all those role players going to play better at home. Well, they have no choice, but that's kind of how these things go. These role players do play better at home, so we will get to see if they're going to do it again or is the moment going to be sort of too big. And this is the biggest moment in sports. I mean, it's game seven in the NBA Finals.
I'm gonna throw a list out here at you and see how you react to this. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan, Hakeem Olajuwon, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Willis Reed, Moses Malone, Steph Curry. That's the list of players who have won an MVP and an NBA championship in the same year. Those are legends among legends. That makes up majority of the top 10 all time. All those guys are probably top 50 of all time. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander can cement himself amongst the greats with a win in Game 7. Like you mentioned, the performance he had in the fourth quarter in that Game 5 that maybe he didn't play his best throughout majority of the game, but stepped up when he needed to do so. Um, and look, he's had a great year. He was by far and away the favorite for MVP for majority of the year. He deserves it. He scored 30 more times than he scored under 20. And this is a chance, this is a legacy moment, not only for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because we know what type of player he is, what he's done this year, MVP, all that, but this for this Thunder team, and specifically for Sam Presti. Sam Presti has been the general manager for this Thunder team for almost 20 years now. He had the chance in 2012 when they went to the finals to win a title. He completely rebuilt the roster after he tore it down, traded James Harden. They eventually lost Kevin Durant. They eventually traded away Russell Westbrook. Then they built all of it back up through the draft organically. He has had two really different stints as the Thunder GM. He had a timeline with the Westbrook, Harden, Durant, Ibaka team, and now he's bringing up another MVP in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He is widely regarded as one of the best GMs, but he has not gotten to the finish line yet. And if you're Sam Presti, you're going to lose a lot of sleep at night if you don't complete this one because there's no guarantee with the way that this Western Conference is set up that they can get back to this point if they don't finish the goal here. And so if you're the Thunder, I think there's going to be immense amount of pressure. You are the 68 win ball club that's got this game 7 at home. You're going to be probably 5, 6, 7 point favorites. You've got the Pacers team who are widely underrated coming into the year, are underappreciated, are the underdogs. Their main star is hurt. They're going to be playing with house money, and you're going to be playing with your back against the wall with everything in your favor. Is this a young team that can't handle that pressure and is going to crumble? Or are they going to step up to the moment, meet their maker, and take out the Pacers and accomplish something that the Thunder have not accomplished in their franchise's history? There is a ton on the line if you're the Thunder. And say you don't get this done in game 7. Where do you go from here? This was a question proposed to me that I spent quite a bit of time thinking on the last few days because what do you do if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder and you don't get this done today? You've got a roster built out that's mostly paid for. You're going to have some guys that are going to be coming up soon. You're going to have to deal with paying Jalen Williams and Holmgren and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. I would like to think that they're going to plan around Chet Holmgren in the future, but he's had an abomination of a playoff series here. He's had some good moments, but it's just not up to the standard that he was drafted to do. I think he's averaging roughly 12 points a game in this series, which is not what you want if you're an Oklahoma City Thunder fan. He got out rebounded by TJ McConnell. He's not impacting the game defensively that maybe he was touted in coming into um, his NBA career in this playoff in this NBA Finals run. He's shooting 44.5% true shooting and 35% field goal percentage, which is incredibly disappointing for a guy that's 7 foot tall that should be around the rim, making easy plays, cleaning up loose balls. He's been massively underwhelming. So that's something you're going to have to address going forward. Obviously, you're going to have Topic come into the fold. You've got the 15th pick in the draft. You've got a war chest of assets if you eventually want to make a move. Um, we'll talk about something later, but I've got an interesting proposal down the line that maybe they could look at. But I want to hear your thoughts on what this team could potentially do to continue to improve this roster to make sure that they're the favorites and have a chance to win multiple titles, not just be in this one finals like what happened to that 2012 team.
Yeah, that I understand the question. I just think there's no way they're not going to do They're not going to go out and pay Chet and Williams and just try and build around those three. I do agree with you. Chet hasn't played as well as definitely I thought he would in this series, and he's got a chance to sort of right the wrong here in Game 7. But what we've seen in this series is probably not going to be that way, and they're going to have to rely on Shea and probably Jalen Williams. But I mean, I'm going to go back to what I just said earlier about Jalen Williams. I think really he's got a chance to emerge as a potential superstar. And you already have Shea, so I think there you go. There's two superstars. You got one and then another potential. You try and just lean on Chet's sort of, he's young and hope he can become a little more consistent offensively than he has. But I think I mean, this isn't really just a roster standpoint. It's just he's just going to have to put on weight. Um, he has not put on weight since he's been at Gonzaga. He's been pretty much the same size. He's going to have to go out and put on, some weight to be able to actually punish guys down low instead of such a finesse, just kind of shooting over people in the paint. They need him to be a reliable post scorer, but I think they're going to continue to draft well. Here in a couple of days, we're going to have our mocks coming out, and a lot of people have them mocked to go get a center. I think eventually they're going to have to move off of Hartenstein as much as they probably don't want to, and maybe build around, maybe not next year, but probably the year after. I believe he signed a 3-year deal once he got there, so I guess he would be up after next year, and then hopefully, well, in their case, they go out really depend on a center in the draft. But they're going to lose some of these guys on the bench. They're going to have to continue to draft and develop and hope Topic is something. He's going to be interesting, though, because he's going to need the ball based on kind of the homework we did on him last year. He's going to need the ball in his hands. He's similar to those those European guys. But anyways, it's a tough question. I'm curious to see what you're going to propose. I'm going to think maybe you're going to consider a Chet Holmgren move. Maybe I don't know where you're going with this. They could probably get a lot out of Caruso in a trade, but I'm curious to see what your proposal is. But I do think the what they're gonna do is still go out and pay Holmgren, Williams the max or whatever they're going to be eligible for, and just try and continue to just do what they do in drafting so good. But a guy who they wouldn't be in this position without is a guy in Alex Caruso who they had to go trade for. So, you know, I don't know, but what is your proposition here?
It's going to be very tricky to navigate who to keep, who not to keep if you're on this. I don't think there's a world in which you get rid of Alex Caruso. I mean, this dude has, I mean, carried you through a couple of these playoff games this year in terms of just the impact he makes defensively. Um, he's the type of player that we talk about these Pacers guys being with Nemhard and Neesmith, just utility guy that just 100 miles an hour every single time he's on the court. So he's a guy I don't think you can get rid of. Aaron Wiggins at 10 million, I think he becomes expendable. Isaiah Joe at 12 million, I think becomes expendable. As much as I know they value Lou Dort at 18 million, I think eventually he's going to become expendable. And Hartenstein at Wealth at 25 and a half, got 2 years left on that deal, as you mentioned, likely becomes extendable. Ideally, they want to continue to build around Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren, and Jalen Williams. And so that's going to be their core guys. I'm not going to propose to move on from any of those guys. But say you're the Thunder, in a hypothetical world, you were to lose on Sunday in Game 7 to the Pacers. Is there internal discussions already happening with Sam Presti in that front office? If Kevin Durant is not traded by then, do the Oklahoma City Thunder decide we have unlimited assets? we're going to have another year before we're going to have to kick in and pay Holmgren and Williams. They're on team options this year at another friendly deal that they can surround with. Do you put in Isaiah Hartenstein, which is exactly what is being thrown out there in terms of what the Suns want? They want a starting caliber center out of a deal, reportedly. You throw him a guy like Isaiah Joe, who's a shooter who they can put next to Booker, who's going to knock down shots and play a role. They can give him a guy like Kenrich Williams or Ousmane Dang or AJ Mitchell, something to make the salary work. They have the 15th pick in the draft, which if I was them, I would propose to keep, but you also have the 24th pick in the draft. You throw them one of those draft picks, you throw them Isaiah Hartenstein, you match salary, and then you're staring at Kevin Durant going back to Oklahoma City. The Thunder can be one of the teams where they say, we don't really care if Durant signs an extension or not. We probably honestly don't want him to sign an extension. We just want him for 1 year. We came off a disappointing loss. We feel like we need one more guy who's got playoff pedigree who can go get buckets. Do the Oklahoma City Thunder look in the mirror and say, we could swallow some pride, go back and get Kevin Durant and run this thing next year and just see how it goes? I wouldn't necessarily propose that they do that or say that they absolutely should, but that's just something that I've been following it so closely and nothing's gotten done yet. So I was just talking hypotheticals, and then I got the idea proposed in my head about what the Thunder can do moving forward. And so, do they go after Kevin Durant?
I think that would be electric to say the least. I just think I would hate to see it being a Grizzlies fan, obviously, but from a basketball standpoint, it would just feel pretty sweet, for him to leave in the fashion he did and then come back and hopefully help or would look to help them win a championship. I mean, if they could get the salaries to work out, I mean, I think they would be willing to give up another pick or two. They have so many that would just be able to help Phoenix in a number of ways, and then you could still go out and draft a center, and you'd be able to still keep. You'd have to give up some of the bench guys, but you'd be able to keep some of them. But really, the reason that this Thunder team, like as great as they are, the only like one of the reasons why they aren't just runaway didn't sweep this series is because at times their half court offense is a little clunky and they really depend on points off turnovers because their defense is so good. They rely on a lot of ISO ball, and Kevin Durant would obviously help out any offense in the NBA as he's still going to give you. He's averaging, I believe, 26 or 27 this year. He's a career 27 points per game guy. He could play at any team in the league and at least give you 25 a night on 50, 40, 90, most likely. So, I mean, I think that would be a seamless basketball fit. I mean, it might take a week or two, but I think that would work out as long as health was fine. He's not going to take the ball away from Jalen Williams. He's not going to take the ball away from Shea. He can really kind of do whatever. He can play ISO. He can go sit in the corner. He can sit on that low block and shoot post fades. I mean, their defense may get a little worse, but he's not. It's not like he's a bad defender, and they could still kind of work around that if they got it done early enough. I mean, I don't think it's a bad proposition, win or lose, depending on how they really feel about Hardenstein and who they're going to draft and whatnot. So, I don't know. I think that would be very cool to see from a basketball standpoint as someone who I've tried to hate Kevin Durant for a long time, but man, I just like his game too much. He's too fun to watch when he's actually on the court. His too offensive game is just so amusing to me. A player I've grew up pretty much my whole basketball life and got to watch him. So I think that would be pretty cool to see, and I don't think it's a bad proposition at all. Now, whether or not they do it, that's another question, but I think that's a very unique perspective there.
And for everybody who wants to mention and talk about Kevin Durant as a player in today's game, you just mentioned it. He is far from washed and he has still a lot left in the tank. Obviously, it's not at this point with the leverage game that is being played, the age, the situation in Phoenix, you don't want to give up a ton of value for him. But that's not the package that he's going to go for is not representative of who he is as a player. Because, like you mentioned, to pull it up right here, the 145 games over the course of 2.5 years that he has played in Phoenix, he's still averaging 27 points on 53% from the field, 43% from three, on an effective field goal percentage of almost 60%, which his period in Phoenix is the highest of his career up to this point. He is far from washed. He still has a lot of juice left in the tank. If you haven't gotten a chance to check it out, go look on Twitter about Mike Greenberg, his rant on First Take the other morning about who Durant is as a player now. He gave just a full representation and argument for why he is still impactful. And there's a reason why there's still 6 to 8 teams that are trying to get the guy, even though he has said he has ESPN has released a list of 3 teams, but privately he's really pushing towards 1 or 2 teams in particular. But there's still 6 to 8 teams that are just trying to convince his representation and him to come to their organization because of the level of player that he is. And so if you're the Thunder, I would think long and hard about it if the deal is not made by then, which by the time this gets put out or by the time that game 7 is over, there could have already been a trade and this could all be meaningless. But it's something that I would at least have in the back of my mind and be thinking about as we head into game 7. And while we're on the topic of Kevin Durant to Oklahoma City, we might as well just go ahead and address all the latest news and rumors since that's what everybody is here to hear about because we're all just following this as closely as I am, including listening to Phoenix sports radios shows every single night, listening to Houston Rockets podcast, which I don't know what I'd rather be blind than ever listen to Houston Rockets podcast, but here I am. So following this down to the details, we have had a little bit of fluctuation here today. Not a lot of news in terms of ESPN except for Brian Windhorst, who is now starting to report the realization that the Suns are likely going to have to give in with Durant's demands of a preferred destination, as he is saying that he is working the back channels. He is preventing teams like Toronto and Minnesota, who by all accounts have the 2 best offers on the table right now. He is preventing these deals from going down. He has a destination in mind and he is trying to get there. Today there was massive movement on Bet Online in terms of betting odds, however much you take stock in betting odds. I think it's more of a just a trend follower than actual detailed reporting and information. But yesterday, San Antonio was plus 400 to get Durant. They have shot to minus 200 this morning on Bet Online. It's still holding steady at minus 200. The Rockets are at plus 250. That's a major shift as ESPN has vibrantly tried to push the idea that San Antonio is not super involved here, whereas every other major national media service, including The Athletic and Sam Amick, have made it very clear that the San Antonio Spurs are Durant's #1 preferred choice of destination, and it would likely be Houston and then Miami as the next 2 in that order. So it's just interesting to see a few things transpire today. Paulie Market has it as a 34% chance he ends up in San Antonio. So there's just a little bit of information in terms of that. If you take much stock into that, you've had the reporting that Phoenix is willing to just hold on to Durant if he does not, if they do not meet their trade requests before the draft on Wednesday night. So this could get pretty interesting, which is why following all this, I brought up the idea of the Thunder because if the Suns are really willing to wait this out, we could see teams like the Grizzlies, like Oklahoma City, in which the Grizzlies just made that trade and acquired a 2026 Phoenix pick, which could be intriguing to Phoenix. And so there's just so much going down with this trade. Obviously, my Spurs are directly in it, which is why I'm following it so closely. But I think it's pretty clear with the contradicting of reporting from every outlet, local media, any source that you look at in this, nobody really knows what's going on here. And it's going to be likely a deal that Phoenix is not going to be in love with. It's going to be a deal that we look at and be like, that's it. That's all I had to give up for Durant. And it sounds like it's just going to take either Phoenix folding, Durant forcing his way to a team, or a team just giving in to the demands of Phoenix and going above and beyond, which at this point does not seem likely.
Yeah, I think we all know where he's going. We all know he's going to end up forcing his way to your San Antonio Spurs, and you're just playing reverse psychology, and we all know what's happening here. But anyway, the Spurs odds are interesting because at one point when this sort of started, they were about minus 200 or even low, worse odds than that. And then they sort of fluctuated plus 400 and then now minus 200 again. This stuff, man, I'm just ready for an answer here. We're hearing stuff every day. Phoenix basically just trying to get as much as they can. San Antonio's very stubborn, smartly stubborn in what they're willing to give up and not give up. Is it going to be the Shohan? Is he going to be that piece there? He's been sort of clowning on Twitter here lately, hanging out in Phoenix, all those kind of things. So I don't know. You mentioned my Grizzlies. I would absolutely love for Kevin Durant to end up in Memphis. That would be. I mean, I would never be happier. I don't mean I don't think we'd win the championship, but it would just be absolutely amazing for that to happen. And the problem is we had a deal at the deadline. He vetoed it, but he also vetoed a number of other trades like Golden State, who tried to get him, and I'm sure there were a number more. He seems to be very.
And it sounds like this is the same thing that's going on right now in terms of Phoenix is coming out and be like, oh, we hold the leverage, we're just going to send you wherever. It's very clearly not that, and it's very evident that because a deal has not gotten done yet, this signals that Durant is back channeling his way to a preferred destination.
And I actually listened to that podcast he went on with Draymond Green, where he addressed those rumors of going to the Warriors, and he really hit it home. And we've pointed this out, but he hit it home on what it would take for him to be traded and how it's happened in the past. He feels like it takes such a hit to the team before he gets there, based on the trade package that he is, he's sort of required to get for the team that trades him. Um, I really think he's trying to help out whatever team he ends up on by trying to get the least amount as possible and trying to basically make it as free agency as possible as he can. Um, and I think that will end up being with the Spurs. But the last thing he would want is for a team to be gutted again, like the Suns were when he was traded to the Suns from the Nets. And just think if he would have gotten to the Suns somehow via free agency, and they would have been able to keep a lot of those guys that were on that finals run. I mean, they could have been just as good. But you got your team, you give up Bridges, you give up Johnson, and all your picks. All of a sudden, it's a lot harder to win. So I don't know. I do think as he's getting older here, he doesn't necessarily care. He's not got. He does have an ego, but it like personally, if I was to be traded, I would like it to be a lot of things to show, that's how good of a player I am. I'm worth all these kind of things. I don't think he kind of views it that way anymore. I think he's being very particular on where he's going to go, just like he was at the deadline. And he's going to play it patient because he's still getting the paycheck. He's still going to get to go out and play basketball. So he's just going to play it patient like he has been.
Yeah, well said. It's a waiting game at this point. It's going to be the first to blink, and he's likely going to veto everything until he gets where he wants to be. And look, we've seen it with him with Brooklyn. We've seen it with him with Phoenix. They've tried to do these three-man superstar trios where the depth is really tested on these rosters, and they haven't gotten to the point that either of those franchises desired to get to. He recognizes that. He sees that wherever he goes is going to have plenty of depth around him and the ability to improve the roster if need be. And if he goes to a team that completely guts out assets for him, that's just not going to be the case. And teams realize, look, this guy's going to be 37 by the time the year starts. He's only got a short shelf life left. He's going to be really expensive in terms of he's likely going to command a 2-year, $120 million extension amongst the trade. And so that's really the discussion here. And before we kind of move on from the Durant stuff, because we've talked about it just so much over the last couple of weeks, but another team that this was a Zach Lowe idea on his show, the Zach Lowe show today. What about Boston? What about Boston getting intrigued about a potential deal where, look, Phoenix wants win now pieces. They want a center. Celtics are likely going to have to offload Kristaps Porzingis this offseason. We could do a Porzingis for Durant type of deal with other stuff involved. We could get Drew Holiday rerouted to a third team that sends other assets to Phoenix because it won't be just Porzingis for Durant straight up. Um, and then, look, you're going to be without Tatum. You're going to need somebody to carry a heavy scoring load throughout the regular season. Durant can be that guy. And you just run it with Pritchard, Brown, Durant, Derek White. If you can re-sign Cornet or if Horford comes back on the cheap, that's something that the Celtics should and can look into. It doesn't sound like at this point they're super interested or involved in this, but look, we're having fun proposing a Thunder idea. I figured I'd throw out another team that's had championship success recently, which was the Boston Celtics, who are likely going to have to kind of blow this roster not completely up, but a mild missile to the core of this roster this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, that is interesting. I just think unless they could get a lot of other things, that would just be a complete disaster for Phoenix to end up getting Porzingis, who I'm just not quite as high on, especially here of late. As I don't really think anyone is. I don't see what's necessarily going great for him going forward. I mean, obviously he's a good player. Don't get me wrong, but I just that's a implosion waiting to happen again in Phoenix with his issues. But you're right; it could depend on sort of the other things. I mean, I could see Boston going out and being aggressive, knowing they're going to have to do something eventually. They want to stay competitive this year, especially in the East. That's going to be winnable. Um, that is interesting. Zach Lowe throws that out there. This has been multiple years in the making when him being in Phoenix, offering Jaylen Brown and a couple other things years ago, trying to get him before he went to Phoenix. So, I mean, once again, does Kevin Durant want to go play in Boston? That seems like what it could end up being. Obviously, Suns are going to have to want to still pay that or still take whatever they can get here. But anyways, I don't know. That is an interesting thing, but ultimately, I still think he finds a way to end up on your Spurs.
And speaking of Boston, they just recently, within the last 90 days, completed a sale for a $6 billion evaluation, a legendary sale in the history of American sports with one of the most storied professional sports franchises. And once again, the Los Angeles Lakers had to go and one up them as the Buss family, Jeannie Buss, the governor of the Lakers, have decided to sell a majority share of the franchise to Mark Walton, the owner of the Dodgers, at a $10 billion evaluation, the single highest professional sports sale in modern history and just history in general. And a historic moment for the National Basketball Association as they now have a franchise that has reached a $10 billion valuation. It's massive for the league. It's massive for the Lakers fans. there's just so much to really discuss and dive in when you start thinking about what all this impacts, not only for the Los Angeles Lakers, for the city of Los Angeles, for the National Basketball Association, for other teams in the league, for professional sports in general. This is something that is just truly, truly game changing within the landscape of the NBA.
I agree 100%. I do think this sale will sort of reset the market. I mean, it is the Los Angeles Lakers. $10 million is such a $10 billion, excuse me, it's just a crazy number, even compared to the latest sales that we've seen in the NFL and the NBA. But I'm going to look at it from a Lakers perspective. Uh, a buddy and I, who's a who's a very strong Lakers fan, pre LeBron Lakers fan. Um, him and I'd had a number of conversations about this, and I mean, I advised him. I think you should be thrilled. I think all Lakers fans should just be ecstatic that this ownership group is coming in because of the success that they have, the willingness to go out and do what's best to go win a championship. There's reports, I believe Dave McMenamin, who's number one really beat writer for the Lakers, ESPN guy. I think he put out they're going to go ahead and like expand their scouting department, all these kind of things that he did with the Dodgers. That's obviously worked out for him. And, he's not going to mind going into some sort of taxes and all those kind of things as he's just loaded with money. And we've seen it with the Dodgers, how ahead of the game they are as far as payment deferrals and all those kind of things. I just think the Lakers are now going to be handled by the best of the best, economically speaking. And I think Rob Pelinka has to be thrilled about having to get some more smart people in there with him, helping him out. And man, if I was a Lakers fan, I would just be ecstatic that this guy's in here and he's going to do whatever it takes to help us win a championship. As for Luka Doncic, who obviously is probably the main one affected by this, um, I do think this is going to, I'm not saying put him on the hot seat or nothing like that. He's going to get extended as soon as he's eligible, and he should be. But, you got new ownership coming in. This is championship or bust already with the Lakers. And they're not going to play. Just look at how aggressive the Dodgers have been. They've gone out and gotten some of the biggest names in the world, and they've also traded some of the biggest names and let people go. MVPs, let's just let them walk. World Series MVPs, uh, letting Seager walk, and then Bellinger a couple of years ago. I mean, like they're going to go get the best of the best, but they're not willing to let the best of the best leave either because they know they're the destination, premier destination, as the Lakers are. So I don't know. I just think this is going to put a new pep in the step for Luka, or at least it should, because now you definitely have someone who's going to be able to work with you and help you build the championship roster to the best of your ability. And this is no knock on the Bus family or whatever, and they've been tremendous for the Lakers organization. I just think it's a new age, it's a new era, and they've got, I mean, when you look at baseball, you got the best of the best. They're already in, he's already familiar with the LA area. And I mean, the Dodgers have really been the premier team in baseball. And look who went and signed with them, Shohei Ohtani, mainly because of that deferred money payment plan that they've sort of gotten working with him. And obviously, it's not going to be quite as easy in the NBA with the salary caps opposed to the MLB. But I just think he's going to go out there and pay the best of the best people to work with Rob Pelinka, which is going to bring a new attitude, a new standard to that Lakers organization that's already championship or bust. But now they're going to have just some of the smartest people they're going to be willing to go pay some of the smartest people in this league to come and help them. So if I'm a Lakers fan, I am just absolutely thrilled by bringing in this new ownership group.
It's an interesting note here. The Buss family had owned 66% of the Lakers. Um, Walter, who just purchased the majority share, had already owned 27%, which he had bought in 2021. He paid 1.35 billion for that 27% in 2021 after the Lakers had re-upped with the Staples Center deal, and the owner of the Staples Center Arena, which is now crypto.com, was the previous owner of that share. And after they got that money to re-up, he sold his shares to the Walter family. And in that deal, he had first right of refusal if the Buss family ever decided to sell a majority share of it. So with this deal, Walter is paying 4.8, which is 48% of the Lakers at a $10 billion valuation. So while there's not a $10 billion transaction going on here, because of the 48% that's being sold for 4.8 billion, that's where the $10 billion valuation comes from. This is going to be a situation where Walter is now going to own 75% majority of the Lakers at 6.15 billion when you include the two separate transactions. So from his side, it's not that crazy. It's not quite to that 10 billion, but the valuation, which is the percentage that was sold for the dollar sold, that's where they get that 10 billion valuation. But regardless, it's a massive, massive transaction considering the valuation for the Celtics was just set at 6 billion, which was a record deal. Um, and it's to be noted that Jeannie Buss had a really good relationship with the owners of the Celtics that just sold. She had a really close working relationship with Mark Cuban, who was the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, who sold in 2023. So it seems like there's a trend here. It's hard to say a trend because the amount of money that's being thrown out for these teams, it's really hard for these family-owned ownership groups to say no to. And for the Buss family, they don't have the per capita that you're seeing in a lot of sports ownership groups having now. They are a team that is known to have their wealth from the Lakers organization. They're not this global empire that Mark Walter has built up to this point that has a ton of extra cash to go deep into the luxury tax, go deep into the aprons rules that we have set up in place now. And so with this new thing, the Lakers, like you mentioned, are going to be able to go deep in luxury bill. They're going to be able to pay it. You mentioned the Dodgers. When the Dodgers were taken over, they went out and signed Andrew Friedman, who was the general manager at the Tampa Bay Rays, who had built championship caliber teams there, brought him over to the Dodgers to be the president of, or not president of basketball, but president of baseball operations. And so they, like you mentioned, they're going to make deep changes to the scouting department, to the front office. It was a node from Jeannie Buss to go ahead and re-up Rob Pelinka. Obviously, you're the Lakers. Rob Pelinka just pulled off the biggest trade in NBA history. It's a guy that right now you're not looking to get rid of, but the Busses owed a debt of gratitude to Rob Pelinka for what he had done. So they gave him the contract extension, knowing that this ownership group is about to change. And when there's new ownership comes many, many changes. And a lot of times they want to bring in their own people to run the operations. Like we're seeing now with Matt Ishbia with Phoenix. He has now brought in all of his guys just shortly after purchasing that franchise. And so that is very, very noteworthy. I just have a lot of questions about why we're seeing all these sales right now. And I think the first thought is, yeah, there's just so much money, but is there concern about where the NBA is going in terms of ratings? Is that affecting why these owners are deciding to get out, even though we're now seeing record sales? So the money coming into the league is not much of a concern, in my opinion, when you see the dollar amounts that these franchises are going towards. And obviously, the Laker brand that you're paying for is a global, worldwide brand. Your return on investment is going to be well worth the price of admission that Walter's paying here. The interesting thing is you typically don't see a franchise sell for this type of valuation when they don't own their own stadium. They have the rights to crypto until 2041. And so he's not really going to be able to put the Lakers in a new stadium for another 16 years, which for a lot of sports teams, especially in the NBA, your stadium revenue is where you're going to get a bulk of your money in terms of also your local TV deal, which it was reported that the TV deal that the Lakers have, I think like a week or something of it, they get more money out of the TV deal than what the Grizzlies get in a whole calendar year. And
Thanks for throwing that in.
and so it speaks to the market that the Lakers are, the brand that the Lakers are. And so that's why even though you don't have your own stadium, you're sharing a lot of space in the LA market with other entities. They still go for this type of valuation because of the brand that they have become and the superstars that they have backing that organization.
Yeah, I'm glad you throw that in just to throw a little jab at me, just to top it off. But hey,
Well, the Grizzlies are reported to be, in terms of local media deal, as one of I think it is the lowest in the league. And so it's not a dig at you. It's just the reality of the world that we live in with small market going up against the biggest market.
yeah, and hey, KCP out there saying he wants to win a championship. He says he has to hold back from comments on what the Grizzlies are about to do. So hey, who knows what we're about to do? Maybe we're gonna go trade for some bench guy or something. I don't know what we're doing, but hey, we finally made a decent trade. Hated to lose Bane, but anyways, let me get back on topic here. Yeah, the Lakers themselves, like I said, should be thrilled about where they're at. The stadium thing or the arena thing is interesting. Not something that I had understood completely, but obviously you had the um, Clippers go out and build their arena, and I believe that's like where the Olympics are going to be held for the basketball thing here in a couple of years once the Olympics come to LA. Um, so that's the thing about LA, though. You're just in Miami, and some of these super major cities, mainly those two, New York. You're competing with so many other teams. You got the Rams, who eventually we're going to do some NFL talks, and I know you are probably going to be as high on the Rams as anybody. They're going to be looking for another championship. You got the Dodgers that are definitely going to be looking for a championship this year, coming off of one. The Clippers, although haven't won the championship, they're still. I mean, they just built this arena. They got the richest owner in sports, probably. There's just so many attractions there in these big cities. And that's just why I think I would be thrilled because this group is so familiar with the LA area, what it takes to get fans in seats. And obviously, the Lakers, I mean, I'm just going to say it. I think they have the biggest, fan base probably in the entire NBA. I think it spans probably the large across the country the most. So I don't know. There's a number of different things here, and I don't really know why so many are being sold. You have some pretty big names jumping in. I mean, I understand it a little more in the NFL just because the NFL seems to be just doing so good, improving year in year out, whereas the ratings with the NBA is sort of the conversation. But we have NBA teams going for more than NFL teams, which we'll see what the next NFL sell is, and there's no telling what it'll be. But I do think that this potentially will reset the market, similar to just how I mean, this is just how it works. I mean, look at Deshaun Watson in the NFL when he got paid. That sort of reset as far as how they gave out guaranteed contracts and those kind of things, where you look at it and you say, okay, that's where it drew the line. And I'm not saying that this is exactly going to be the case when selling sports teams, but 10 billion really, I mean, I don't really know what other team in sports will go. I mean, if Jerry Jones got up to try and sell the Cowboys, maybe what would that number be? I don't know, but 10 billion. Obviously, you touched on why that number is that, but still, just to even say those two words together is it's just mind boggling. And um, but like I said, Lakers fans listening in, I think if I were you, I would be ecstatic about where you're sitting now.
And like you said, this is not I don't think a 10 billion valuation is going to become the norm. It's because the Celtics at 6 billion, the Lakers at 10 billion. These are globalized brands that are bigger, not bigger than the National Basketball Association, but their brand carries a lot of weight within the league and just in sports in general. And so if you have like, I'm going to bring the Colts up as an example because they're going through the passing of the torch from Irsay to his daughters. If they were to enlist on the market right now, even though they're an NFL franchise that is going to be in a more desirable sports league with bigger revenue, they will not sell at a $10 billion valuation because they do not have the brand recognition and the market that the Lakers have. That's why you saw Dallas sell for only 3 million when Cuban sold his shares. The Phoenix Suns, when they sold in 2023, 4 billion. When Jordan sold the Hornets, it was at a 3 billion valuation. And so that the Lakers are going to be extraordinary in terms of value because of what they are as a brand and as an organization. Um, and so, like again, yes, if Jerry Jones was to throw the Dallas Cowboys up on the market, they would sell for probably astronomically more than 10 billion. It would probably come in at closer to 15 billion valuation. And so that's something just to kind of look at there. Um, and I just want to touch on it before we kind of quickly move things on to wrap up here. Um, this is outstanding news for the NBA because they are staring down the barrel of expansion. That's been talked about for years. It was talked about again this spring by Adam Silver that once they finalized the sale for the Celtics, they were going to start looking back into expansion. Now they're going to have to finalize this transition, which was going to be easy because the new owner is already a minority owner, so it's just going to be they don't have to improve. They don't have to approve a new ownership group coming into the league, and so this is going to be a clean transition of power here. But the league is about to have two new expansion teams, and seeing a team go for a $10 billion valuation just screams dollar signs. If they can get a team in Las Vegas that has a massive market, they're going to get a wealthy, wealthy bidder to come in to join the league. If they get the Sonics back, they're going to have another pretty wealthy ownership group, I would imagine, come in and make a significant bid. And so that's what is, in my opinion, even more significant about this than anything is because what Mark Spears reported on ESPN right after the sale, the league is expected to re-engage on expansion talks as early as this summer. And so it's coming and it's coming very quickly. And these two franchises that have now sold at these crazy valuation numbers is going to be great in those discussions.
Yeah, and we've talked about it previously, but expansion definitely will be coming. How does this affect that? It's only, time will tell. It's going to be a very interesting transition once that happens. Adam Silver went on the Dan Patrick show this past week, maybe the week before. I listened to it, I believe, early this week. And of course, every time he goes on one of these shows, it's going to be mentioned. It's going to be Vegas. It's going to be uh, Seattle again. Um, you know, I'm just curious to see how that's going to sort of affect all the other teams around the league on uh, how certain players from certain rosters become eligible to be drafted and all those kind of things towards that team. We'll have to have those conversations down the road once that actually uh, happens. So I just think it's inevitable at this point. Too many eyes on the sport, even though all the conversations are about ratings. But anytime the NBA is in conversations, good or bad, it's people talking about it. It's eyes, it's conversations, it's talk shows, it's everything. Good or bad, the NBA is going to take what they can get. And I mean, like I said, when it's not going good, they're still being talked about on why it's not good. It's just constant in the talks, even though it's not as big as the NFL. It's still rapidly growing when you look at values of stuff, even given inflation. I mean, just look at the turnaround from when the Bus family bought it. I don't have the exact number on me. Saw it earlier this week on what that exact number was and then end up flipping it. I mean, one of the best flips we've ever seen compared to, you can only really compare it to the Jerry Jones buying the Dallas Cowboys back in the 80s or 90s, and now what that uh, franchise is worth.
Yeah, 65 million is what they bought it for, and then to sell for a 10 billion valuation. I'd said they'd done pretty good with that deal, and they're going to be very happy with that. Um, just to kind of close up our thoughts here, um, the draft is right around the corner. Wednesday night will be round one of the draft. This is a different format this year, as they're going to do round one on Wednesday. Round two will take place on Tuesday. NBA Finals Game 7 will take place Sunday night, 8 o'clock, ABC in Oklahoma City. So we will be back to recap the winner of the NBA championship and talk about all things draft, including an Ace Bailey holdout, which now he is refusing to work out with a lot of these teams, canceling workouts late, not talking to certain organizations. We will dive into all of that in our draft spectacular show that will take place on Tuesday night. We will record that, likely get that posted to y'all then or on Wednesday morning, depending on when we get to chance to record that. But those are a few things that are coming. Obviously, by then, shoot, by tonight, something could happen. By the time this podcast is posted, we could have some action on Durant trade, but that could be what we talk about as well in that next episode, as well as any other trades that we assume will likely see some movement by the time Wednesday rolls around when that podcast is likely out by. And then obviously we will be back after the draft to recap our thoughts, winners, losers, fits, more transactions that was made. So we got a lot to look forward to. We've talked this whole playoffs about why this is the most exciting time in sports, and it has just not disappointed with a great playoffs, a great finals, two amazing basketball teams, trade rumors, franchise sales. Just a great time for the NBA, a great time to be a sports fan. Um, just a lot that we've got in these last few weeks that have a lot of excitement moving forward.
Yeah, and all I agree with everything that you said, and I've already started working on um, my first round draft, and I'm gonna nail every pick. There's no doubt about it, and I believe we should have some sort of system here on winners and losers, who can get the right picks and who can't. I mean, I'm sure I'll lose given the amount of resources you have, but I'm going to try my best and hopefully I can get some right. And really, I'm curious to see who my Memphis Grizzlies are going to select. Pick 16.
They're probably going to draft somebody that's going to turn out to be a bust. But no, I'm just kidding. I hope they draft somebody great if they get maybe Danny Wolf to replace Zach Edey, who might go to jail since he decides to drive 101 miles per hour down the highway. But anyways, this has been episode 21. Again, we've gotten a ton of feedback. Shout out to everybody that has left support, feedback, given us their thoughts and opinions on the podcast. As always, you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts and on social medias. Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter at the State Line Fast Break Pod. This has been yet another edition, jam-packed show coming for you all on Wednesday, and um, we hope that the draft provides a lot of excitement. So, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.